Hi, I'm Dale Youngman here at the Oceans 25 exhibition at the Loft at Liz's. I'd like to introduce one of our very special returning artists. She was also in last year's environmental show, Sarah Pigion. Sarah is a wonderful mixed media artist who often uses organic materials in her work, and I was just completely taken by this quadriptych. So, Sarah, why don't you tell us a little bit about the meaning behind this work, your process, some of the very special materials that you've used, which makes it so very near and dear to me, and I'm sure will also resonate with many other people.
Thank you. Well, I'm really happy to be included in the show, and as always, my work cycles a lot around ever-evolving cycles that we go through, and the natural rise and fall or death and rebirth of things that we go through both in our own life processes, but that we also witness out in the natural world. So when Dale mentioned this show, I hadn't worked specifically with materials that I'd collected from the ocean, so I just took some time in February, I think it was, and I went down to the beach, and I hadn't been there locally since our fires that came and devastated a lot of the area. And so it was kind of an emotional experience visiting the beaches. There was a lot of char that I found actually in pieces buried into the sand, and the water was actually still closed because the Coast Guard was not sure about the level of toxicity in the water yet. So what I gathered and what struck me there were these reflective pieces of shell. These are clamshell, and then the charcoal I took as well, which I've used in some of my previous work from forest fires. I feel like it's kind of the fire element is a really strong representation of transformation, and the ocean really represents this sense of depth and bottomlessness and drawing attention to what's unseen, in the depths of the ocean and within the depths of ourselves. There's this really complex world there that I feel we don't always engage with. A lot of times we're kind of just walking through and kind of operating at the surface, and so I felt like this series was a process of reflecting and taking on or inventory of what your perspective might be both internally and externally, and then allowing ourselves to be molded by this moment, by our environment, and recognizing that nature is really the only one with the ultimate control, and we can learn from her. And even though there is fire and destruction and all these things, the ocean itself is self-cleansing, it is self-renewing, and so are we. And so the piece, as I gather the materials, and I rather than in this symbolic rising of the moon over the ocean, had the moon rising, I lowered the horizon line because it implies that the viewer is changing their perspective. It implies that there's not a shift in the elements that are outside of me, but I myself am shifting and shifted. So the title is Ebb of Perspective. And the clamshell, along with the earth pigments that I use, create some reflectivity and a lot of depth. The panels themselves are aluminum, so they have a lot of luminescence, which can vary based on the time of day or the lighting, and that's all representative of the complex world in which we live and our own inner complexities. So I could go on and on, but I feel like art has a beautiful place and moment for us to be able to take a pause and recalibrate how we are organizing ourselves and how we're then taking our own action in the world. So Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sarah. That was beautiful. I really appreciate you explaining the work. It's truly beautiful. I urge you to come see it in person.